Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our briefing with the 99. Super excited to be with you today. I'm Second Lieutenant Ashton Serratos. I'm a graduate from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. I'm also a pilot select for the United States Air Force, serving as an Air Force ROTC Gold Bar Diversity Recruiter. I know, long job name, for the United States Air Force, specifically targeting folks who are interested in rated careers in the Air Force through ROTC, the Academy, or OTS. I'm also joined today by one of our fellow Gold Bar recruiters, Kevin Hoodwin, and I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Yeah, ditto to what she said. Pretty much everything exactly the same, except I'm Lieutenant Kevin Hoodwin, and I graduated from Texas A&M University. Whoop.
Nice. Thank you both for joining us, and congratulations on going in to be selected as pilots and going on to this school. You guys got it. So first, let me start off by saying, Kevin, what is the benefit of pursuing flight training through the military versus the civilian sector?
I like about the military versus civilian sector, both excellent options. Both are awesome. The thing about the military for me is the camaraderie and the amazing benefits you get throughout the entire way. Flight training in the civilian sector versus the Air Force is one, we pay for your flight training. We actually pay for you to go to flight training with the amazing benefits along the way, with the camaraderie, all the friendships you're going to be making, and not to mention all the cool aircraft you're going to get to fly.
Nice. So will the Air Force pay for the college and the flight training? You mentioned, but will they pay the full amount? Like, how does that work? Explain it to me, like if I'm just trying to look and see if it's a good fit for me.
Gotcha. Okay. So like I said, we actually pay you to go to flight training. So negative of you paying for flight training. For college and scholarships and everything like that, yes, we do offer college opportunities and scholarships. So your main options for going to college through the Air Force is going to be Air Force ROTC and the Air Force Academy. Air Force Academy, you're actually going to the academy, being a full-time military student, and you're getting your college paid for completely. Air Force ROTC, you get to go to pretty much over 1,100 colleges nationwide, any college you want in the United States, and you get to pursue an Air Force contract that way by doing pretty much any major of your choice. And then there's scholarship opportunities along the way. You can apply for a scholarship when you're a junior, senior in high school, or you can earn a scholarship while you're at college.
Nice. So Lieutenant Ashton Serratos, what hardships have you faced on your pathway to becoming a pilot select?
Great question, ma'am. And honestly, it's going to depend on each person, right? What you consider a hardship can be as simple as, hey, I didn't pass an FA once, which is our fitness assessment. Or maybe you're having troubles finding that internal motivation. And for me, my largest hardship early on was paying for college. I didn't know that the high school scholarship program had existed. So I went to a very expensive school and was having troubles finding ways to pay for it. Mm-hmm. When I got into the ROTC program, it gave me an instant group of friends that gave me that internal motivation and external motivation to start doing good things within the program. So working on my fitness, finding different people, different groups to hang out with that met the demographics and the interest groups that I was most interested in. And through this introductory period in ROTC, was able to gain a lot more confidence in myself and my performance. And in the end, when I got to my second year, I was able to receive an in-college scholarship that kind of took away that initial hardship, which also allowed me to go and put in more effort within the ROTC program, not having to worry about a way to pay for school. And that also unlocked that opportunity for me to be successful throughout the rest of the program, so that when it came down the line for pilot selection or rated selection, which is something we'll talk about towards the end of our interview here, it made that selection process a lot less stressful for me, preparation wise and then execution.
Okay, so who actually inspired you to even go into aviation and become a pilot?
I think a lot of the folks that followed the 99s will have their own reason, right? Whether it was maybe sitting in the back of your car and watching the planes fly over, pointing them out to your parents maybe, or maybe it was an air show. For me, it was, I grew up in the state of Washington, and I was not directly beneath, but pretty close to the flight path for the C-17s coming out of McCord Field and JBLM. And I just remember watching those heavies soar through the sky and thinking, man, how does that big hunk of metal, how can it take off from the ground and do all these amazing things? So that was my initial inspiration. And for the longest time, I really was into heavies. I really wanted to track that way through ROTC.
Yeah.
But then I found a love for special operations. And actually, my detachment commander, Colonel Carroll, he pointed me in the direction of helicopters, which is the way that I hope to track now, so that I can work with special operations, doing a really unique mission for our pararescue men, as well as some of the other folks that work in Air Force operations for the Special Ops Sec. And just remembering from being that small child, watching those heavy aircraft soaring across the sky to now, it's a pretty full circle moment. So it's really awesome to be wearing this uniform.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what is the biggest lesson you learned while in Air Force ROTC? Because I'm pretty sure you learned a lot of lessons.
Yes. I've had plenty of failure moments just where, you step a little too far in one direction and you find out that's not the direction you should be going, or you stumble along the way and have to pick yourself up. So I think the biggest lesson has definitely been making mistakes and being okay making mistakes. Seeking feedback from the people around you, the cadets around you, your detachment cadre, to come back from those mistakes successfully. And then taking the time to impart that wisdom or share those learning moments with others. No one learns how to do something the first time around. It's always taking in a lot of different information from your surroundings, from the people you work with, the people that you're going to school with. So don't be afraid to fail, but when you do fail, come back stronger, and ask for help along the way.
Nice. That's really inspirational. So what opportunities are available for someone coming out of high school who doesn't really know what they want to do? Go to college or go to the Air Force? Like, what pathways do I take coming out of high school?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, great question. So a couple of paths you can take to become a pilot in the Air Force out of high school is you either go to the Air Force Academy, where, like I stated earlier, you have a 4-year university. It's in Colorado Springs. You do your thing there, and then you become a pilot through there, or you go to Air Force ROTC. Both paths, when you're at those programs, either Air Force Academy or Air Force ROTC, you can talk to your cadre and ask them, hey, I want to be a pilot. How do I get to that goal? The first step for you as a high schooler is just to get into those programs. And then when you get there, you can ask the questions of how to do it.
Okay. Do I have to have any experience as a student pilot before I go?
Not at all. Tons of Air Force pilots start off with zero experience.
Gotcha. All right. Is it harder for women to become Air Force pilots? This one's for you, Lieutenant Ashton Serratos.
If you would have asked this question about 10, 20 years ago, you might say, yes, it was harder. It was a male-dominated field to begin with. So paving the way for revolutionary leaders within the military sector, but also within the flight and rated career fields, it's been a slow progress, but the slow burn, it has come to where we are today, where I can go to school with the intention of becoming a pilot in the Air Force and have a clear pathway ahead of me, knowing that I will have to work just as hard as anybody else trying to pursue that pathway. But there aren't those intentional roadblocks in the way. Some of the most revolutionary changes include some of the women who have paved that way for us. So Major General Jeannie Ann Leavitt, the first fighter pilot for the Air Force, right? Female fighter pilot. Still out there today, still putting down that leadership, that lesson for females within the Air Force to strive harder, be the first to do something. We also have fictional characters. Maybe you watched the Avengers films and resonate with Captain Marvel and her pathway within the Air Force. And I think the biggest thing is just remembering that it's not decreased standards that are allowing women to come and be Air Force pilots. It's a wider net that's being cast to where females can know that they could be empowered to do this career. They understand the pathway that's ahead of them. So they're competing with a wider variety of inspired female aviators who want to make this their career. So just something to kind of keep in mind is my favorite quote, and one of the quotes that you might have to learn for field training within Air Force ROTC is gender, race, religion. None of that matters. What matters is how you perform. So if you want to come in and this is the career that you want for yourself, don't make it a competition between boys and girls. Don't make it a competition between enemies and best friends. Make it a competition with yourself to be the best version of you as you go through this program.
Nice. Lieutenant Ashton Serratos, what was pilot training like?
So pilot training is broken up into two different types of training. So the first one is going to be initial flight training. It used to be called initial flight screening because this is the point at which folks who maybe had no flight experience whatsoever would decide if this is the route they want to go down. So it's very intense. It's very compacted, and it takes you from as little as zero experience in an aircraft to being able to solo an aircraft for the first time. So obviously a very intense program. From there, the students that complete that successfully will move on to the next stage, known as undergraduate pilot training. Now, undergraduate pilot training, at least for right now, you'll fly the T6, which is a trainer aircraft, very aerodynamic, can do a lot of really cool things that not every plane in the Air Force arsenal is capable of doing. And you're going to spend some time learning how to fly that aircraft. While you're doing that, your performance in that aircraft is going to decide which tracks you can pursue later on. So right now we have the T-38 track, which traditionally goes towards fighters and bombers. And we also have the T-1, which is also bombers and heavies. And then folks who are interested in helicopters, there's an alternative route for that. But we want you to go through this program, succeed in the T6 to get whatever pathway you are most interested in, and then find your pathway towards the career or the airframe that you're most interested in. So it's going to be a lot of long days, maybe 12-hour days, where you're studying in a room along with your flight mates, trying to understand the specifics of your aircraft, planning for your next flight, taking a step out to that plane, pre-checking, all of the things that you would do on a normal civilian side, but I'd say it's definitely a lot more compact, fast-paced, and very demanding, as this program only lasts about the 1 to 2 year mark of your initial start and within your career.
Wow, that's pretty, it sounds intense, but I know it can be
Yes.
done. Yeah. So Lieutenant Hoodwin, what are rated career fields and how do they differ from each other?
So Ash and I are actually about to go to IFT on Monday. That's just wanted to plug that in there. We're about to leave, finally start. So rated career fields, essentially, if you think rated, it's anything that's officer, well, not anything, but things that officer and fly and contribute to the mission. Not all encompassing, but the rated career field, there's 4 of them for officers. It's pilot, obviously, you're flying, combat system officer. They're the ones in the back of the plane that are working the defensive and offensive systems on that aircraft, if it has any, or if it has a need for the combat system officer. You have air battle managers. They're the ones that are in the back of those big planes with the radars on top. They're the ones actually directing the battles and organizing everything. And then the last one, we have RPAs, or remotely piloted aircraft. Those are, they don't like it when you call it this, but those are the drones, the guys in Vegas that are in bunkers somewhere in the United States that are controlling our drones, protecting our assets from 1,000 miles away.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what is the service commitment for the rated career fields?
So that can vary depending on which one of those 4 jobs you have. And I like to call it more of job security than service commitment. To give you a hard answer, it's about 6 to 10 years of job security, depending on which one of those jobs you have.
Wow. All right. Is it easier to become a pilot through, I guess this is for both of you, is it easier to become a pilot through the United States Air Force ROTC, or OTS? You both can.
So for a student that's coming out of high school in particular, the Academy and ROTC are going to probably be your most straightforward paths to becoming a pilot. So these are both opportunities you can go to complete your bachelor's degree in a field of study that interests you. Doesn't have to necessarily be aviation related. And you will compete during your 4 years or so in the program or at the Academy for those pilot slots. So traditionally, we see that the pilot slots or the rated career field slots are passed down the junior year that you're in either of those programs. By volume, the Academy produces more pilots than the ROTC pathway does. However, both will have competition between peers, between different folks across the nation for each program. So we always tell the students, control all the tangible things that you can. So your grades, your physical fitness, how involved you are in your ROTC detachment or at the Academy to help boost those initial scores. There'll also be a couple tests that you take that are standardized across each applicant for the rated career fields. So for the Air Force Officers Qualifying Test, If you want to be a pilot, you need to score well on the pilot section. If you want to be a CISO or an ABM, combat systems operator, or air battle manager, then you need to score high on the navigation portion of that test. And then every applicant will also take a test of basic aviation skills, which is hands-on, and it's going to take into account the human factors portion. So looking at how well you can multitask while looking at a human computer interface so that you can decide, okay, do you have qualities that would be good within a pilot candidate's perspective? Can you multitask well? And then for the OTS route, Officer Training School, that's a little bit different. So if you're somebody who is interested in becoming an aviator within the Air Force and you've already completed your college degree on your own, you can try to track towards Officer Training School by making communications with an Air Force officer recruiter. Now, this process is a little bit more straightforward than ROTC or the Academy in that you will know before you get sent to officer training school if you are competitive and selected for one of those rated career fields. So instead of competing for it all throughout the time that you're in the training program, you'll know ahead of time what your job is before you're sent. Still very competitive. Obviously, you get a lot of applicants who have already completed their college degrees and want to go this way. So it all depends on what your qualifications are. But bottom line, just remember to control all those tangibles. And the best applicants are going to be the ones that have pushed themselves to be the better person or the better version of themselves.
Nice. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for speaking about this program and how important it is and your experience, and good luck on your future journey. It's not going to be as bad as you think, probably. You'll get it done. Don't be nervous.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, and thank you 99s for tuning in.